Today on ZZZ Made Easy, we're starting off our idle journey with Sunna. This video will cover the basics of Sunna's main mechanics, how you can build her, and some teams you can go into. This video was made in collaboration with hoyocreators and uses footage from the creator beta server. There are no sound effects enabled and things are subject to change. Thank you hoyocreators for this opportunity. Sunna is an S-rank physical support agent from the Angels of Delusion. While she will assumingly be the main support of the Angels trio, Sunna is a fine journalist buffer for attack teams. Sunna grants an actual attack buff and is able to generate additional damage ticks that use the stats of her allies. Sunna can also increase the stun damage multiplier, and she has a new Ether Veil type. Let's start with Sunna's EX special. With 70 energy, pressing the special button will send out Bubblegum to attack the enemy. When Bubblegum lands, it triggers a heavy attack as well as a quick assist forward. Sunna has iframes during this move, and on activation, she grants allies the Angelic Chord-ination state for 40 seconds. I'll be splitting up Sunna's core passive, but the first part covers what Angelic Chord-ination is used for. Agents in this state gain an attack buff equal to 30% of Sunna's initial attack stat. If Sunna has 3500 initial attack, she can get a max attack buff of plus 1050. 1050 attack seems kind of random, but there is a reason for that. Anyway, Sunna's team attack buff will require her to build almost full attack stats. Every time she casts her EX special, this will last for 40 seconds. Speaking of which, Sunna's EX special actually has a part 2. After the initial Bubblegum barrage, Sunna's energy bar will no longer have the 70 energy cutoff marker. This is because if you press special a second time, Sunna will use her special photography technique. I'll just refer to the second EX special as the EX special selfie. Before taking the picture, Sunna attacks with Bubblegum and triggers another heavy attack plus quick assist. However, before the quick assist occurs, Sunna also activates a brand new Ether Veil Delusion reprise for 40 seconds. This Ether Veil grants a small 50 attack buff to all allies on the team. Combined with her Angelic Chord-ination state, Sunna can grant plus 1100 attack to the team. If Sunna reactivates her Ether Veil, she will cancel the existing instance and trigger another activation. This wording is important because it means it will trigger Xiaoguang's additional ability, which gives her 3 Chainwing Sword Force. This re-triggering of an Ether Veil is also important for another one of Sunna's own mechanics. Some other things you should know about Sunna's 2 EX specials. The EX special selfie does not cost any additional energy, and it's got iframes so Sunna can pose in peace. If you have Arya on the team, she would join Sunna for the picture. We do not know for sure, but you would assume Nangong will appear for the full group shot. Back to mechanics, you do not need to use the second EX special immediately after Bubblegum Barrage. Sunna can use her first EX special, then quick assist out. As long as she swaps back in before Angelic Chord-ination runs out, she can tap special to do the selfie. Now if you do not use the selfie within those 40 seconds, the energy bar will reset and Sunna will have to start from her first EX special again. Generally, we want to activate Angelic Chord-ination's attack buff with Ether Veil Delusion at the same time. If you hold special with 70 energy, Sunna will cast both moves back to back. This actually may not always be the ideal way to use the move, but we'll come back to that in just a bit. For Sunna's additional ability, she needs an attack agent or an Angels of Delusion member. When anyone in Ether Veil Delusion attacks an enemy, the target's stun damage multiplier will increase by 30% for 40 seconds. Sunna can increase your team's burst damage during stun phases. All you really need to do is have Ether Veil Delusion active at some point in the last 40 seconds. That is very easy to achieve, and the bonus gets applied with literally any agent's attack. The other part of this ability is that Sunna gets 15 energy when battle starts. This is to ensure she can use her 70 energy EX special, which is slightly higher than the common 60 energy cost. Let's take stock of Sunna's main support perks. Using her first EX special will grant Angelic Chord-ination, which is Sunna's team-wide 40-second attack buff. If you use her second EX special, Sunna activates Ether Veil Delusion, which grants 50 attack for 40 seconds. Sunna can grant 1100 attack total if she builds 3500 attack herself. From the additional ability, when Ether Veil is up, enemy stun damage multipliers are increased by 30%. Triggering Ether Veil and granting a stun damage multiplier bonus directly benefits our new Void Hunter, Xiaoguang. While the Jiao plus Dialin setup is really fun, Xiaoguang doesn't really need Dialin stunning power. Dialin can be saved for another team, while Sunna can fill in the similar buffing role. We actually haven't covered all of Sunna's support perks. The majority of the core passive is dedicated to Sunna's Cat's Gaze mechanic. After certain attacks, Sunna can apply Cat's Gaze to enemies for 12 seconds, and these are the neon-colored cat face icons. When attack or anomaly agents hit foes with Cat's Gaze, the mark will grow and change colors. It has 4 stages, starting with green, then orange, after is pink, and finally the mark will explode. Generally speaking, Cat's Gaze is triggered by 4 individual attacks. However, it seems to only progress the mark after each individual move ends, and there's a short cooldown to progress each stage. Longer animations like from an ultimate will not move to the next stage until it is over, while Billy's constant basic attack shooting will still require a little bit of time to get through each stage. Now when you trigger Cat's Gaze, the damage dealt depends on if you use an attack or anomaly agent. For attack agents, Cat's Gaze has a 300% attack damage multiplier, while anomaly agents get a 480% attack damage multiplier. Very important to understand that Cat's Gaze's damage is treated as coming from your attack or anomaly ally. It will use their stats to calculate damage, and it deals attribute damage matching your ally. Cat's Gaze also is guaranteed to crit, and Sunna will add 150% crit damage to your ally's already existing crit damage stat. Instead of the usual damage amplification buffs, Sunna basically gives your damage dealers extra damage ticks in their attribute, and it's a stronger guaranteed critical hit. Besides her attack buffs, Ether Veil, and stun damage multiplier bonus, this is another way Sunna supports her team. It's a bit different from the norm, and it's kind of like a non-anomaly version of the blue mechanic. Cat's Gaze has many quirks, so let's cover these real quick. First off, I assume it's just beta server things, but sometimes the Cat's Gaze damage didn't seem to crit. I couldn't figure out if something else was at play. Cat's Gaze can be triggered by off-field attacks like from Orphe, but it didn't seem to trigger from things like anomaly damage, Bernice's Afterburn, or Vivian's Prophecy Dot. From what I can tell, Cat's Gaze doesn't seem to build anomaly of any kind. If Sunna is on field, the Cat's Gaze mark will not disappear after 12 seconds. In addition, small mobs with Cat's Gaze will straight up not attack Sunna. The description states she gets reduced aggression, but no, Sunna's idle aura is just so powerful that enemies become Angels of Delusion fans. If it wasn't obvious, the devs are having a lot of fun with these characters. Sunna's idle animation is a full-on, forever repeating dance that you can do while Cat's Gaze is on small enemies. In addition, the other angels will join in at the same time. In the 2.6 teaser trailer, they did show Nangong included in this little dance. Too bad those big bad bosses will still attack you, but it's a funny interaction nonetheless. For some mechanics you can use in serious battles, if Cat's Gaze is on multiple foes, only the primary targets will get triggered. Upon triggering, all Cat's Gaze marks are going to be removed from the field, but to compensate, the damage does have a small area effect. It's not very big, but if foes were like within Nico's energy fields, then they will still take all the damage. When enemies are stunned, the number of attacks to trigger Cat's Gaze is reduced significantly. In other words, the Cat's Gaze mark will now start at the 3rd pink stage on stunned enemies. That means you only need one more attack to trigger the damage. As a note, if the mark is green or orange and you get the stun, then the mark will immediately progress to the pink stage. In general, you can save Cat's Gaze for stun phases to get the most amount of damage out of them. That will bring us to the 5 ways to apply Cat's Gaze. The first 2 are from Sunna's EX specials. The 3rd and 4th way is from Sunna's Chin Attack and Ultimate. The last way will be the most common applier, and that's from Bubblegum's off-field attacks. I want to focus on this one first. After Sunna uses her specials, she sends Bubblegum into battle similar to Lucy's guard boars. Bubblegum inherits Sunna's initial attack stats. When Sunna is off-field, Bubblegum can attack enemies if no one has Cat's Gaze. But it's going to come at the cost of 1 Claw Sharpener. These are Sunna's unique resource. Claw Sharpeners are the pink cat paw icons, and Sunna can hold up to 6 max. To earn more, Sunna gains 2 Claw Sharpeners when any squad member triggers an Ether Veil. When any squad member triggers an anomaly, that can grant 1 Claw Sharpener, but this condition has a 10-second cooldown. Generally, Sunna will need help maintaining Claw Sharpener stacks. The more she gets, the more Cat's Gaze damage ticks she can give to her team. With Xiaoguang and Zhao, Sunna will have 3 Ether Veils to regain stacks. As for the Angels of Delusion team, Arya is an anomaly agent, and she can trigger Ether Veil Delusion on occasion via her ultimate. I would not be surprised if Nangong also triggers Ether Veil to help keep up the stacks. Do note that it takes Bubblegum a second or so to reapply Cat's Gaze, and it only lasts for 12 seconds when Sunna isn't on the field, so you technically can waste him if you don't hit the enemy fast enough. Also, Bubblegum only targets a singular enemy, but it does seem like it applies a small AoE, so it is possible to reapply Cat's Gaze on multiple foes if they happen to get in the way. The usual way for Sunna to apply Cat's Gaze to multiple targets will be with her 4 other moves that apply the mark. Regarding her EX specials, Sunna has the option to use Bubblegum Barrage to apply 1 Cat's Gaze, then swap out to trigger it. When she swaps back in to use the second part of the EX special, that will apply another Cat's Gaze, plus activating Etherville will store 2 Claw Sharpeners. Now if you don't plan to swap out in between, then generally Sunna's EX specials is a source of 3 Cat's Gaze. Sunna's chain attack applies Cat's Gaze, but doesn't activate any other buffs. It does however come with a quick assist if Sunna ends up last in the sequence. Sunna's ultimate has a bit more oomph to it. It has a quick assist trigger that actually occurs before the heavy attack portion of the move. You can swap out if you don't want Sunna to trigger the chain attack sequence. In addition, the ultimate heals the entire team for 2950 HP at skill level 12. This is actually the same healing as Asher's ultimate, which may be an intentional detail. Now for the last effect, Sunna gains 6 Claw Sharpener stacks. If you need to refill, then ultimate is a great way to do so. Because you can chew through Cat's Gaze much faster during a stun phase, you may want to save the ultimate till right before the stun. Not a bad time to refresh. To recap, Cat's Gaze is Sunna's other support aspect, where she gives attack and anomaly agents an extra damage tick that uses their stats, while also being a guaranteed crit with 150% extra crit damage. You can apply Cat's Gaze with Sunna's EX specials, chain attack and ultimate, but the primary way will come from Bubblegum's off-field attacks. These will require Claw Sharpener stacks, which Sunna can get via Ether activations, anomaly triggers, and her own ultimate. Since it uses the ally stats for damage calculation, you can think of Cat's Gaze like a non-anomaly version of the blue mechanic. For the most part, as long as Sunna uses her 2 EX specials every 40 seconds, she's going to do her buffing job. Typically, you can just hold special to cast both parts at the same time, then quick assist out. That is totally fine. However, the hold input version does less damage in days than tapping special 2 separate times. It also is not really that much faster than the 2 button presses. Another downside is that Sunna actually triggers her quick assist slower with the hold input method. When you tap the special button, Bubblegum's first attack is what triggers the quick assist prompt, whereas holding the special button only brings up the prompt after the second EX special finishes. Now here are a few examples where we can use both input methods. You can use the 2 separate EX specials to trigger a double chain attack sequence. Sunna's first EX special can apply Cat's Gaze and trigger the first chain attack. You send your attacker in, trigger Cat's Gaze, and then you cancel the second prompt. Sunna's second EX special will apply another Cat's Gaze, plus you get 2 Claw Sharpener stacks while triggering the second chain attack. The first EX special refreshes Sunna's primary attack buff, so it's not a huge issue if you want to wait to activate the second part with the Angels of Delusion. With that being said, the hold EX special is one way to activate Ether Veil without starting a chain attack sequence. When you hold special, Sunna no longer causes a heavy attack with Bubblegum Barrage, so she can get into Angelic Chord-ination and Ether Veil Delusion before chain attacks begin. For a rarer scenario, stalling the Quick Assist trigger allows you to instead swap out with Perfect Assist. Normally Quick Assist overwrites Perfect Assist. It's a small window, but maybe doing a Perfect Assist would be preferred for the situation or your agents on your team. You can also just use this method to swap in regularly. This can be useful if you want to swap backwards in your team order. Obviously, it depends on your team comms, but if you wanted to activate the attack buff and Etherville without quick assisting forward, then yes, the hold input gives you that option. Last thing I want to discuss before I move on to builds is Sunna's impact, like literally her impact stat. For whatever reason, Sunna has the second highest impact for a non-stun agent. She's a good bit behind Caesar, but Sunna's 98 base impact beats all other agents, and most supports are in the low to mid 80s for impact. If you peek at Sunna's days multipliers, they're also quite high, at least from what you expect. 900% days multiplier on both parts of the EX special, good lord. Now, Sunna doesn't get any other impact or days bonuses from her kit or Mindscapes, but this is one of those stranger traits to see on a support. Everything we know about Arya says she prefers stuns, so it would appear that Sunna is going to help contribute to that goal. It might not be an advertised feature, but Sunna should provide a little more days build up than your average support. For builds, Sunna needs 3500 attack to max out her Angelic Chord-ination attack buff. If you use her signature, then at level 60, Sunna needs plus 118% attack more. If you run an A-rank W engine, then Sunna will need plus 132% attack. The typical build will include 2 partitions with 30% attack main stat disc. To help substat farming, you can also use any of the 10% attack 2-piece sets. From her core passive level ups, Sunna actually gains 21% attack total. This brings us up to 91% attack. With the signature, Sunna needs 9% attack substats. Without the signature, you're looking at 13 to 14% attack substats. As a general rule, flat attack substats are a little less than half of a percent attack roll. If you do not want to use a 10% attack 2-piece, then you'll need to add another 3% attack substats. There are other ways to stack percent attack, but Sunna also needs energy regen in her build. Sunna's signature W engine is Dot Bop. It grants 60% energy regen, and when not the active agent, the user gets another 0.6 ER per second. When using physical damage EX specials, you grant the team 12.5% bonus damage for 40 seconds. This can stack up to 2 times, and if you have both stacks, then the team gets another 10% attack in combat as well. Dot Bop is the energy regen W engine. It can give Sunna some room to experiment with other stats, plus using Sunna's 2-part EX special will trigger the full 25% damage buff, along with the 10% attack buff. This thing is very good. For other S-rank options, you could use Astra or Yuzuha's signature, but getting their full passes will be tougher. Rena's Sweeping Cradle can grant energy regen when off-field, but I'm concerned that it may not be active if Sunna shows up with Arya's plunging attacks. Being off-field and not being the active agent are different things. For another issue, despite Bubblegum actually making an attack to reapply Cat's Gaze, it doesn't seem to trigger Weeping Cradle's damage boost. I don't know if that's intended, but at the moment, Sunna can't trigger the bonus besides her own attacks. If Sunna ends up having too many issues with Weeping Cradle, then the next best limited option will be the A-rank Kaboom the Cannon. Kaboom has the energy regen main stat, and it grants in-combat attack based on how many friendly units hit the enemy within 8 seconds. Sunna and Bubblegum will count as 2 units, and this time Bubblegum's attacks will keep its 1 stack active as long as you keep triggering and reapplying Cat's Gaze. For other energy regen W engines, you can use Nicole's The Vault or the Battle Pass Unfeathered Game Ball. For my testing, Bubblegum's physical damage attack doesn't trigger Game Ball's crit rate buff. This is consistent since Lucy's Guard Board's physical attacks also don't trigger that effect. For Drive Disc main stats, Sunna will want percent attack for Partitions 4 and 5. You can also use it in Partition 6, but I highly suggest having at least 1 energy regen between the W engine and Disc. 2 sources will feel more comfy to play around. For 2-piece sets, if you need to hit the attack check, then 2-piece Astral Voice or Hormone Punk should be used. For 4-piece sets, it's going to be very tough to beat Moonlight Lullaby as the general support set. 20% energy regen, and on EX specials or ultimate casts, the entire team gets 18% damage for 25 seconds. Super user friendly, and Sunna can spread out her 2 EX specials if you want more uptime. Now if you don't plan to do that, then you're going to want more energy regen to spam EX specials about every 25 seconds instead of waiting for the 40-second duration of Sunna's buff timers. If you don't want to use Moonlight Lullaby for whatever reason, then Swing Jazz or Protopunk can be used. For an alternate 4-piece, Astral Voice could be easier to manage if you spread out Sunna's 2-part EX specials. If you end up running double support agents, someone usually carries Moonlight Lullaby while the other carries Astral Voice anyway. Last, if you want to experiment, Sunna can be played with Impact in Partition 6. I was testing only having Kaboom as the only energy regen source, and it is playable, albeit a little tight sometimes. If you have Dot Bop, then honestly you could give Impact a try since they grant so much ER already. Now keep in mind, you could also just run full energy regen because more EX specials technically also provides more days buildup. More ER is always going to be fine, but this is a rare case to try something different. For teams, Sunna is a general team attack buffer which can fit in a variety of teams. Her other perks include a stun damage multiplier bonus and the Cat's Gaze extra damage, so Sunna would ideally pair best with an attack plus stun team. You could also use her in double support setups if you want, and then there's the Angels of Delusion team. So currently I can't give a full assessment of the Angel team, but we know Arya is an anomaly agent who wants stuns based on her tailored drive disc set. Sunna's extra impact and good days multipliers further leans into that idea, plus Cat's Gaze does work with anomaly agents. Now Sunna's Ether for activations also feed Arya's fandom power. Unfortunately, if you want the bonus stun damage multiplier for a single anomaly team besides Arya, then Sunna needs Nangong. We do not know anything about her kit, but she is assumingly a stunner or a stun-focused agent of some kind. At this moment, the Angel Anomaly team is a solo carry team focused around Arya, but I do not know if you can substitute another agent in, like Jane for example. Until we actually get Arya and Nangong, Sunna's primary team will be acting as a third Etherville activator to feed Ye Shengguang Qingming Sword Force. Zhao plus Sunna can grant 6 stacks, and generally I would say Sunna can trigger Etherville more often, since with Zhao Guang you should just build full energy regen. Sunna's attack buffs and stun damage multiplier complement Zhao Guang's kit perfectly. Sunna is also taking over Dalin's spot in the Void Hunter team. Dalin's mechanics do synergize with Zhao Guang, but Zhao Guang doesn't really need her stunning services. That can free Dalin up for other important teams. With that being said, Sunna and Dylan can form an S-rank physical attack team core. Attack buffs, 60% stun damage multiplier bonus, stun extension, percent damage buffs, etc. If you like physical agents, then this is a nice little duo to have. At the moment, Sunna is waiting for her fellow angels to debut, but she should be able to slot into many other team comps. It depends on how much she needs to stun, but for Arya, you could try to run Yuzuha for a double buffing solo anomaly carry team. I did try to recreate this using Alice instead of Arya, and it worked decently. Also tried Yanagi with Thunder Metal and Trigger for an anomaly plus stun setup. I did like that one a bit more. The main issue is that addition abilities get really messy. Here are some other examples for attack plus stun duos. Soldier 11 or Evelyn with Lighter or Kaleda for the fire teams. Soldier 0 Ambi, Harumasa, Anton with Chingy or Trigger for electric teams. Lycon's getting buffed this update and can pair with Hugo or Ellen for ice. Seed and Orphe are a bit unique, but their double attack setups should be fine with Sunna too. Let's go over Sunna's Mindscapes. For M1, Sunna gets 15 energy at the start of the fight. Yes, this is just like her addition ability. For the other effect, when Cat's Gaze triggers, the foe's defense is reduced by 7% for 40 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Adding Defense Shred to your support perks is excellent, although Sunna isn't going to inflict an always permanent 21% Defense Shred since the timers are separate. Still, you got 40 seconds and that's quite a long time, and she can quickly stack up the debuff during a stun phase. For M2, if Sunna is in any Ether Veil, the team will gain 10% attack, and Sunna gets 1 Claw Sharpener every 10 seconds. In addition, Cat's Gaze is easier to trigger normally, and the damage multiplier is increased. For attack agents, you attack on plus 200% for a 500% attack total. For anomaly, you add 300% for a 780% attack total. Yeesh. M2 adds more attack buffing and an extra Claw Sharpener for the now easier to trigger Cat's Gaze. The damage ticks also got buffed, so all around very nice. M4 is very simple. When Sunna uses her ultimate, she grants 18% damage to the team for 60 seconds. Extra damage to use when triggering all those Cat's Gaze procs. M6 is the fun one. When Sunna uses an EX special, she enters the focus creation state for 8 seconds. She gains all of the following. Sunna's attacks are guaranteed to crit, and if you have 3,500 initial attack, then she gets to add 105% crit damage for herself as well. Sunna will get extra anti-interrupt with 40% damage reduction. She also can trigger Cat's Gaze by herself now. If Sunna has Claw Sharpeners, she will consume 1 stack and reapply Cat's Gaze. Last, the Cat's Gaze damage ticks gain 50% increased damage, and this will apply to any ally who triggers it. So basically, M6 is the DPS Sunna Mindscape. 100% crit rate, another 105% crit damage, and she can trigger Cat's Gaze. Focus creation state only lasts for 8 seconds, but you can spread out Sunna's 2-part EX specials if you have a lot of Claw Sharpeners to spend. Overall, if you want to invest in Sunna, her signature is quite good to prioritize, and you should have 0 energy issues with it. It will grant extra buffs for the team as well. Technically, all of Sunna's Mindscapes buff the team further too. M2 and M6 directly buff Cat's Gaze, and M2 will actually supply more Claw Sharpeners, which would be nice to have. For the after party section, I'll cover Sunna's other moves in a more casual manner. Sunna has a 4-part basic attack string. Her 4th basic Hammer Smash seems to have full iframes, including the little airborne recovery. You can swap off early once you begin the 4th basic, and Sunna will finish safely from off-field. Sunna's dash attack is a little hammer upswing that changes into her 2nd basic spinning attack. You can kinda juggle smaller mobs with this combo. Sunna's dodge counter is a 3-hit hammer attack that changes into her 3rd basic. Nice shortcut to get to the 4th basic faster, and this is a decent amount of days build up. Sunna's quick assist is the same animation as the dodge counter and will also change into the 3rd basic. Sunna's regular special is a ranged attack that shoots Bubblegum into combat. This is a quick heavy attack if you need to trigger a chain attack. For both of Sunna's EX specials, they will chain into her 2nd basic. For the M6 DPS playstyle, you have to use EX special to enter focus creation. Weaving EX special with basic attacks will let M6 Sunna proc Cat's Gaze, and you can save the 2nd EX special to extend focus creation. Besides M6, you can also just do EX special, 2nd basic, and 3rd basic before the quick assist prompt runs out. Sadly, I don't think you can get to the 4th basic in time. For extra days build up, you can use Sunna's perfect defensive assist. She has the normal version that costs 2 assist points versus big boss attacks. Sunna does have some grouping capabilities. The 2nd EX special Selfie has Bubblegum sort of bring enemies in. This is a scenario where the hold input can be better to use since you can't trigger the heavy attack from the 1st EX special portion. group them up first, then trigger the heavy attack to lead into a chain attack properly. All in all, Sunna is a fine generalist attack buffer, although she would prefer utilizing attack plus stun teams to benefit from her stun damage multiplier and her Cat's Gaze damage procs. You can use her for anomaly, but Sunna seems more tailored for Arya specifically as a lone carry who prefers stuns rather than focusing on the usual disordered playstyle. Another use for Sunna would be for anyone who needs ether for activations. Currently that is kinda just Xiao Guang, but boy is it a strong pairing besides the Angel team. As of now, Sunna will be waiting for Arya and Nangong to unleash her full potential. If we get more attackers who use ether veils or benefit from stun damage multipliers in unique ways like Xiao Guang, then Sunna will have stronger synergies. At the moment, I wouldn't say she's a major upgrade outside those perks, but she's totally fine for many teams and she generally doesn't need too much managing on field. I can't wait to see the full idol squad in action though. That's all I have for this video. The Angels of Delusion are finally here, so good luck if you've been saving up. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.